Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Talk Show. I am super blessed to be here with the one and only Becky Robbins. We've been playing phone tag or Zoom tag for a little while now. So I am just super blessed that we are here. We made it. I generally do have my talks on Friday, but I made the exception just because we've been playing phone tag for a while. And I was like, girlfriend, let's just get you on when we get you on. Thank you. A lot of people do know who you are. You are an amazing artist. But tell us a little bit more about you, like for the ones that may or may not know who you are.
Thank you, Bina. I'm glad we're finally doing this. I appreciate you and I respect you and all that you're doing for people. Women especially, we're all made of all of that. I was a nurse too. Do you know that?
No.
Yeah, I
What?
was a nurse long ago and far away. I was a nurse also. The part that I loved the most was like the anatomy and physiology part, and which shows up in my artwork because I'm like
Yes.
fascinated by this amazing, miraculous body that we stand
What type
inside.
of, like, what department did you work in?
As a student, you work everywhere. In fact, I was
Right.
telling a friend the other day about the psych nursing part of it and going out into the community. It was in Denver, Colorado, and it was a sketchy community. Here we are walking around, talking to people. I had to study every aspect. Then I was an RN and decided not to do it anymore. After all of that, I decided to not do it only because first of all, I had a 2-year-old, which was tough. I was just going to school and I was working school all day and working the 11 to 7 a.m. shift and driving home with the windows down so I could stay awake.
Yeah.
So that's my history. A little bit more recent history is that I met Tony Robbins when he was 25 years old. We started from scratch. There was nothing, we didn't have anything. We just started all from the very beginning of the beginning. He had done one firewalk in somebody's backyard. Heard he was coming to town to do this event. I went and we met and carried on from there. That was about 14 years of my life that felt like 50 years of my life, only because there was so much it was like 24/7 almost always for all of those years. So I'm happy about that. When you look at there's always ups and downs and parts of life that we love and parts of life that we hate and parts that are neutral. Making peace with that because it's who you are, where you were, and how we're growing. We're a collage of all these different things. And then since then, I left there after 14 years and I've just been doing my own thing. I learned how to do art. I'd never wanted to be an artist, never studied anything with
Oh,
art.
so this was just like a hidden talent.
Yeah.
So that's impressive because your artwork is fantastic. Like, I'm jealous for the people who have your artwork right now. Like, I'm really, I don't have one in my house, to be honest with you. But like, I like giraffes. You are an amazing artist.
Thank you so much. It's a passion for me now. I've always been curious about how people do things. It's like, how does someone even make that happen? I'd buy these big, dude, and still have them and still do that. Buy these big, beautiful coffee table books of a specific artist. I was more into looking at the fine print. Like, how do they do that? What is their process? I'm fascinated by process. I'm actually creating a television show right now that's based on creators, which we can talk about. But that's got me all the way to here. And in the meantime, doing other business things and other business projects with and for other people.
So what was one of as your major hidden talent, where did you, and I just want to go back to the RN thing because this is really intriguing me. You went to nursing school, you passed your boards, and then you just said, nope, not doing this.
I didn't even take the boards. I got all done. It was time to take the boards. I had an appendicitis attack,
Oof.
actual. I'd have my appendix removed and I never went back to do the clinicals and all of that. I never went back. It was like,
Wow.
After all of that and all the work involved and all the years and all of that, I just was like, I can't. And I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but it's
what happened. It's just the energetic force of what came up.
Yeah.
So we're transitioning from nursing, which is a full circle between me and you, because we've met in Mumbai, we met in Arizona, we've met in multiple different places, and this is the first I'm hearing of this. Why I'm so intrigued. Okay. And so after you decided or you chose, nope, not for me, what did you do right afterwards? I know you and Tony Robbins have done businesses and different things. What was like one of the biggest struggles that you had before you realized that you are this amazing painter?
There's a lot of gaps in between all of those. You know what? I think that for me, you're asking a struggle question. I think as a young single parent, I was a single parent for a lot of time.
Okay.
Then I got remarried and I had 2 more children. Tony is my 3rd husband. No kids with Tony.
Okay.
So as being a mom, oh, wow. I've always worked since I was 16. My mom left our family when I was 11. She left for 4 or 5 years. She just left and went to Mexico. And that's a big gap in my life of having no guidance, no supervision. So I raised myself and grew myself up, and I don't recommend it. Interestingly enough, a lot of people have had things like that happen in life. You can go one way or the other. I had a little brother and a father, so I maintained the household at the age of 11 and figured life out for myself and for them. And so interesting, right? Because it's all the nurturing part is a thread that seems to be woven throughout some of these things.
Yep.
As a nurse, of course, you need to have that. It was hard for me to care for people and do the things that are sometimes painful, like passing an NG tube. You know, you're like, oh my God.
Passing an NG tube is probably the most invasive procedure a nurse can do.
It's hard.
It's rough. That's what I said.
Yeah.
It's one of the most invasive procedures a nurse can do. And for the ones that don't know what an NG tube is, it is a nasogastric tube that we place in the nose, passes the nasopharynx, and it goes into the stomach. Generally for ones that are having like really bad vomiting, or there's something that's out there, or they just need stomach rest. That's when we would place those tubes, just so for the audience to know what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
it's not fun. It's not.
And what I learned so many things, and just being in your presence and thinking about medicine, what I got from that was how sensitive I am to the needs of people and people's energy around me.
Got it.
I'm careful about that, because my very first patient that I was given, because I think they're trying to sift the wheat from the chaff. They're like trying to see who can make it and who's not going to. So in the beginning, they gave me this woman who was dying of, oh my God, what's the word? Cirrhosis of the liver. And she was, the poor thing, she was distended stomach. She was pure yellow everywhere with her liver disease, and God bless her. And nobody would come to see her. And that's what touched me the most, is that I was really the only person, because all of the family had forsaken her, because I'm sure that they're like, she put them through hell with all of her alcoholism and everything.
Yep.
It was really hard on me. I cared for her maybe 3 or 4 days, and then she died. So I came to work and the room's empty, and as if she never had existed. And it was just an interesting thing to go through some of those up close and personal life and death things. But also, not, what was great is not to be callous about that, to just have I'm glad I'm sensitive to that kind of thing. I also know, like, in the time we're in right now, like yesterday wasn't a great day for me. And part of it was because I was listening to a woman who's an amazing astrologist in England, and she was talking about all the stuff that's about to happen. And I was like, oh my God, by the time I turned it off, because I was thinking like, okay, this is an alignment. Like, you can see it's happening right now, like the floods, the politics. And it's not just in our country, it's everywhere. There's so much strife going on right now. And I think we're in a shift of humanity right now, not easy to live in. And I think that the struggle is maintaining, we talked about frequency, but in regular terms, it's like how you're feeling and what you're doing with that feeling, and being responsible unto yourself, first of all. If you're having a not great day, what can you do? In my former life, we started the coaching industry too, by the way. That was another thing. It was the beginning of the coaching industry. Before we created that, it was like sports coaching. There wasn't like life coaching and all the iterations of life coaching and stuff. But one of the things we would always say when you're dealing with somebody is physiology first. If someone's having a bad day or a bad moment, change your physiology. I needed to do that yesterday. It's like, go for a walk, get out of the house. It wasn't like I was depressed. I was just like, it was so much to think about, and so much that's out of my control that was bothering me. And that's just part of life. A lot's not going to be in our control, and you can only do your best by taking responsibility for yourself. So that was my day yesterday. Today's a whole
new day, new life, a new thing. And when we talk about the energy with the world and what's going on right now, honestly, there's a lot going on. And for a lot of the hypersensitive people, it's very energetically strong, you know? And what I'm hearing from you is you're also a very hypersensitive person.
I have to be as an artist. I wasn't always an artist. It's come, and I've done different versions of art. This is the series that I'm doing now until I'm not. So I know that my life is cyclical. I learned that in human design, that my life is cyclical. I'm all in. And then when it's over, I don't know what the next cycle is going to be, but it's definitely that. I feel like all of us are in the post-eclipse season 2, which is, it was all about endings and beginnings. I think we're in the end of something and the beginning of something. I feel that. I'm paying attention to those kinds of things and not being in resistance. Okay, that time is over, and what's next? This is the version of art that I'm doing now. I may not always be doing this, but here we are.
What version are we doing now? Because I've seen some of your work. So now where are you in?
Yeah, what these are, my process, since I love process, I put an empty whiteboard up there, and I always have one standing by in my garage. And I have this, I stand in front of that whiteboard, and it's whatever's coming to me. They're autobiographical, because it was going on in my life at the time. I'll get some idea about something, and then I wonder if there's an image attached to that. So like, what image could that be? And then I do some research and find out, oh, that could be that kind of an image. And then I find something to paint with, what am I going to paint that image into? And then they come one at a time. And then at the end, when I'm getting close to this one that's up there, there are all these individual images. And then I start the connecting lines, because everything's connected to everything. So
okay.
So we're in the home stretch on this one, which has been up, they take about 9 months or a year to do. Yeah, it's a big thing. So they're like my children. They're all around me and very different. They all tell a different story, and people are attracted to different ones for different reasons. They tell me what they see, and sometimes I've never even seen that before.
They're very intriguing. Even behind you, I'm trying to like zoom in my own eyes, but they're very beautiful and comes up. And now I see the roadmap of how it all interconnects. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. They're extra meaningful for me. The one in front of me above my computer is the one that Steve Hardison asked me to put aside. He said, as a possibility, can I ask you a favor? Will you just put aside the painting that you're working on, which actually was this one. And he said, well, you put that aside and do one from your document. I thought, like, you don't even know what it's like to be an artist. How am I going to put my document into a painting? But I did. So that one's up here. That one was like an orphan for a year. I just put it back up there a few months ago to start working on it again. But I've never done that before. So I love continuity. And here we are.
That's amazing. Like for you to do an artwork from your document, that's amazing because that's like pure genius within itself. Writing a document in general is very difficult. And doing an artwork behind, that's like another world class.
It's powerful for me to look at it. It's powerful.
Eventually send me a picture so I can see it.
I will do.
Because it's just hard energetically when you're looking at it and we're doing things and we're seeing this forecast and however you come out with, right? It's beautiful to see how your journey went from being an RN, being this hypersensitive person, to coaching, to doing things, and now to be this amazing artist. It just really shows where you think your life is going to be on one path and then it really shines and you're doing something completely different.
The way art found me was that a lawyer had retired due to health reasons. I ran into her one day and I said, how are you? What are you doing? And she said, here's what I'm doing. I'm taking piano lessons, Spanish lessons, art lessons, gardening, she named all these things. And she said, why don't you come with me to something? And I said, okay. So she said, I have an art class. I'm a very beginning art class. So I went with her to the art class. And literally that very first art class was like, you have a piece of paper, your drawing pad and a pencil. And she said, we're going to teach you how to draw a straight line. People say, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. Yeah, but you can. So you take your piece of paper and you just put a dot on the left side of the paper.
I have my paper. We're going to do this with you.
Put a dot on the left.
Okay.
Now put a dot on the far right. This is applicable to so many things about creating. So now I want you to take your pen or pencil and only look at the dot on the far right.
Oh, okay.
Now move your pen and pencil to that dot.
Not bad.
Pretty good. If you did on a piece of paper this big, you would still do a straight line. It's like where you're looking is where you're going toward, right? What you focus on is what you get. There's so many things about that. Keeping your eye on the prize, watching the ball hit the bat. It's like I hand coordinate everything. I loved it when she taught us about drawing a straight line. And then, it was a beginning. And it's something about it made me want to try hard things and figure them out. So my art is very detail oriented. I don't paint easy stuff. It's fun for me because I'll find something and think, oh, I don't even know if I could possibly do that. And I figure it out. And it's the reward of that. It's really good for your brain to be doing things you don't think you can do, hard things, and you figure that out.
It's funny we're talking about art because I actually used to draw and paint. Steve Hardison is the one that mentioned this painting in one of our things. I have not painted since I drawn this.
Oh, wow. That's great. Keep going.
I know. But it was where this came from was I was pregnant with Rohan, my eldest, who has severe global delay. And he's this force of a lion. I didn't know it was going to be a B for boy. I was saying B for Bendale, but it just comes in. I remember having a call and I remember Steve Hardison was pointing this out. He goes, who drew that line in the back? Or who drew that picture in the back? And I was like, oh, actually, that was me. And he goes, I didn't know you were an artist. I was like, actually, that was the last painting I have drawn in over 15 years, 11 years now.
Wow. Come on, do it again because it is so rewarding. I think the part that I love so much is, you alluded to this a little while ago, is just when I'm painting, I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
And also I create a sacred space. This is a sacred space in here.
Yes.
And I don't listen to music with lyrics. I don't listen to the news, even outside of this room. I'm protective of this gift because, and also just the way of being able to live in the world. It's like, we need to create this sacred space around us. And this is one of those. And not very many people come in here. I'm judicious about my space because then I can be creative. So I can't tune into all the noise going on in the world and be creative. That's what happened to me yesterday. I was listening to some of the terrible things to come. And I thought, you know what, this just doesn't serve me. It zapped me yesterday. I had to stop everything. I started doing some organizing things. I couldn't think. I was not in my power. And that's so rare for me. I had to okay, just bless it and let it be on today's new day. And here I am with you. But I think we have to be careful these days. And that includes who we hang out with.
And when you talk about energy and how that space is your sacred space, when I did this particular painting and I didn't know that the lion energy was coming out of me as a mom with my child, with them being blessed with 3 more and all have special needs. It's like, I used to draw and paint when I was younger because I was severely dyslexic. And that was my way of cultivating whatever it was. But ever since then, ever since this drawing, ever since this painting, I've tried painting multiple times, but I can't get into that zone, that creativity zone that you talk about, that sacred space that comes up. Because for me, mom mode kicks in or something comes up. I love my kids, but they come right up. You're giving me inspiration again to really build that space, whether it's outdoors in my backyard or just to have that space upstairs, wherever I'm at, even if it's 20 minutes a day. Honestly, I think this took me only 30 or 40 minutes to draw. It was just like, it came to me, didn't know what I was doing, and it just, bam, that was it.
I think it's important for us to do that. And I think especially as mothers, as women, we can be really good at caretaking. You referred to the document. I call it a blood, sweat, and tears process to create a document. It is not easy and it's so essential. And I've taken it to another level now. But in the process of doing it, it's like looking at things that no longer serve you, that you say to yourself, or you believe that someone said. I had one of my ex-husbands actually, who were friends, but when it said something to me like early on in our marriage, I teased him about that because he comes around when the kids are here and we've had dinner and all that. And I said, do you remember saying this to me, Becky, there's a fat person inside you just dying to get out. Can you imagine?
Oh.
So like what you believe or you don't
Oh.
even believe it, but you like all these things that come in, that's part of the process of the document creation is looking to where all these crazy beliefs and where do they even come from? And they don't matter. And then the second part is forgiving yourself for judging yourself, as you could even be that kind of a person who would X, Y, Z. And back to the nurturing thing, I want to talk about that for a minute because I already said my mom left and I raised myself and my brother for 5 years. He was 8 years old. The unhealthy, unsatisfying, sad belief was that who takes care of Becky? Becky takes care of everybody. And I felt that way until I did my document with Steve Hardison sitting in front of him. I was trying to figure that out. Like, what would be the opposite of that? There was no opposite. What there ended up being was like, you know what? I'm actually good at it. I'm good at nurturing people. So that became part of my document is I'm made of God.
It's embodied in you. It's just who you are. And there's a lot of sweat, blood, and tears in that. But it's also, it's just who you are. If your mom may or may not have left, you would have still probably have done the same thing.
Possibly. I think though that I have a daughter who's an amazing mother and she's very busy and she's an actor and she's really busy working. And I just admire her so much because she does take time for herself to exercise and do the things that serve her. I think we need to, back to you painting and having not painted, I think that if we just, maybe we don't know, I never would have become an artist had I not run into my friend Susie, who invited me to go to an art class. Then I nurtured it. Another thing that I think is important is creating a practice where you have some continuity and consistency. I always have a blank painting ready to go. I don't like big gaps because I lose the momentum. And I like learning. I have 2 guitars downstairs, which I want to learn. I quit taking lessons for a while. And I have a piano downstairs too. So the other day I was like, okay, I'm going to go down and play around on these instruments. Look, guitars are all tuned up, ready to go. It's the feeling of reward. We're so good at supporting other people, but we need to do that for ourselves too.
And that's where my Supermom CEO event is so crucial. Giving back that fun to moms. You can be an aunt. You don't need to have children. It's just a woman in entrepreneurship. It's going back to that having fun. Like going back to concept, like I'm going to challenge myself after this call to go back to painting. My husband's been saying this for years. He says, we have white walls. He's like, why don't you just choose a wall and paint? Worst case, we just repaint it if you don't like it. Do a mural. Let's go. And I've been fighting the resistance for a while.
Well, Meg, why don't you chunk it down into bite-sized pieces? Because if someone said do a mural, I'd be like, oh my God, where do I start? Start and then just keep going and give yourself wins along the way.
A big thing might be a big project. But the fact that he's letting me explore, the fact that he's letting me do that, the fact that he's even allowing any of that to exist and giving me that acknowledgement and that thing. Because when I was married, I'm still married to him, but when we were dating and when we were comes up, like I painted all the time. There was a whole paint room comes up and then I had kids. And then I was like, and the paint and the acetone and my kids like to get into it. I was like, yeah, we're not going to do this right now. But which comes up, I don't know if you see this. My daughter painted, I have to bring it down. She did these.
Can't quite see it, but
I'm going to bring it down for you because I don't think you can see it, but I'm going to bring it down for you because this is impressive.
Oh, how fun. Oh my gosh, I love those. So much personality in that.
So much personality in this. And this is from my daughter in kindergarten.
Wow. I love it.
Kindergarten. And no, I didn't draw that. I wish I drew this giraffe, but no, I did not.
Is she still doing art?
Huh? She is still doing art. She just did this amazing watercolor painting, which is downstairs in our kitchen right now. When she came home one day, I'm like, you didn't draw that. I was like, who did you follow? Yeah. And she goes, no, mommy, was me. And then I was like, oh. And then when I asked the teachers at like open house or comes up, she goes, no, that's really her. And I was like, oh, okay. And then my husband nudges me again. He goes, the apple doesn't too fall from the tree. He goes, maybe you should really go back and start teaching your daughter the stuff that you've learned from when you were a child. I was like, fine. But one of these days I'll go back to oil painting and do one of these ones. But this is not mine. This is from Home Goods. I give credit to Home Goods. It goes back to that level of feeling grounded, having that sacred space, especially for women that are in entrepreneurship, especially for women that may or may not have children or who are becoming pregnant, thinking about being pregnant, or just have life in general. You can have a dog, you can have a plant for all I care. But I think it's just that level of having that sacred space for you.
Yeah.
I think that's a key thing you've actually just retaught me today.
I meditate every morning. Meditation can be not easy because we're thinking all the time. My practice includes heart math. I love heart math. I have the little gadget that measures your EEG and EKG at the same time. When they are wacky, you're wacky. But if you can get those in alignment, now you have your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are in alignment. Your intuition is greater. And if I can do that, I have a printed version of my document.
Yep.
I have it in my lap. I don't know how many people do their document and know all about that stuff, but there's a book I read. I'm going to do a video of this and put it on Facebook because it's a way that I've made my document live and breathe. So it's part of my all through my day thing, because there's phrases in one, and it came from a book called The Book of Mastery by Paul Selig, Selig. And it is such a powerful book, but there are 3 phrases in there that I love, and I'll define what they mean. The first one is, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. And I know how I serve in truth. I know who I am in truth, meaning I am all that is. I am part of the universe. I am made of stardust. The second one is, I know what I am in truth. Like I said on stage in Birmingham, England, we're like chips off the divine block. We are the singular, one-of-a-kind expression of infinite intelligence. I know what I am in truth. And I know how I serve in truth is who I'm being. While I'm doing heart math and I have it in my lap, because I'm doing the breathing, deep breathing in and deep breathing out with a gadget attached. And there's an app on my phone. I can see today I was 100% coherent. Yeah, for 20 minutes. Then you're just in the most amazing place to drop in. Using those 3 sentences with your document, for example, and then they all keep trading places, those 3 things, but they make it come alive. For example, I know what I am in truth. I was created as a curator of epiphanies, a master of curiosity, and an expert at reciprocity. So when I use that phrase, I know what I am in truth, I was created that way. I came onto the planet that way. And then that activates all of that for me so that I'm living it during the day. I know how I serve in truth. I'm created to nurture humanity. That's in my document. I was created to do that. I was created to teach and be a leader, and all that kind of things are in my astrology, which I also love because I know who I am.
Right.
I know how I came on to the planet and what I'm equipped with, and I need to use it. And that helps me to use it. So it's just been a really amazing blessing to incorporate some of these other things that give it life and color.
One question from that, and maybe this can help some of the viewers that don't understand being in general. What does being mean to you, and how do you explain that to other people that's out of the Ultimate Coach community?
I think for me, we can talk frequency, we can talk your vibration. All of it means the same thing. It's like, how am I showing up onto myself first? Yesterday was such a rare thing for me that it's turned into a blessing because the contrast of it is so great that I can see, wow, I have compassion for people that just go through life. You think you're a victim and all of that. I spoke in England about victims and villains. Victims need villains. Yeah. And when you're in that kind of consciousness or that feeling of being a victim, feeling like you're a victim of some circumstance or whatever it is. And I'm not saying they're not valid. I'm just saying that it serves you not. If you could at least make it neutral, at least make like XYZ happened, the end. Okay, let it go. And on the other side of letting that go is absolute pure freedom. So back to being is who I'm being. And that's why I love the way I'm doing my document now and using those sentences, because they drive home the meaning for me of what I am part of this whole infinite mystery, however you want to call it, God, source, all that is, and all of that. I'm made of stardust. I'm made of that.
Yeah.
That helps me in how I feel, which is how I'm being moment to moment. And it changes. It's contextual too. It's how I'm being with the UPS guy that I just went to send some birthday presents to my grandson, and how I'm being with that guy. And then we get to have a conversation. And my daughter lives in Albuquerque, and it's the big balloon season right now, the big air balloons. And so I showed him a picture she sent me this morning from when she took the kids to school, and there's balloons all around them. And they call it the ascension. The day that they all go, when they all go up.
They all go up. Yep.
And there's a whole fields and fields full of these big balloons. When the ascent is when they all know when to go. It is an amazing feeling. And so I was being friendly and serving I could have just gone and had him weigh my package and walked out, but that's not who I'm being. Being is that I nurture people and that I'm curious and all of those kinds of things, that I'm grace upon grace and my consistency compounds.
That's beautiful. I always ask, especially for people in the being community, because there's always different variations of what it means for you.
Mhm.
And I liked your analogy of it being the pure freedom, being that vibration, being that higher power. I haven't heard that version yet.
I'm going to put it on the group page because it's valuable to me because I am living it.
Right.
Do something, breathe or
Right.
drink water or go outside, change your state and get yourself back into the place where you know you can be, or go take a nap.
Do
But-
something physiologically changes you. I'm a big believer in that. And I'm also a hypersensitive person. So I pick up those high frequency variations, but I'm very intuitive with people. I like this version of what you said.
Thank you. Thank you.
This, not to say anyone else that's been on my talk show from the being movement was bad, but this one resonated with me the most.
Thank you. And there's another thing I want to talk about a little bit because I referred to like we're desperate times or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that right now I'm not in a desperate moment. There's all hell breaking loose in the world, but right here, right now, I'm good. I'm fine.
Good.
And I want us to, as a big collective consciousness, not be focusing on, and that's what started me off on that wrong path yesterday. As I was listening to this woman, I very much respect, but it was like, holy hell, is what she's talking about. And it affected me so, it was I don't normally get like that, but I also want to not tune into that. Because now I'm not only not uplifting myself, but I'm not uplifting anybody else around me. I believe that I'm responsible for the entire collective because we are all a part of the whole. We are some of the parts. We are that. And I believe that when I'm uplifted, it uplifts the whole collective, whether I stay in my house and paint all day and nobody sees me, or I don't talk to anybody. I do feel like that's where we're going as humanity, realizing that I have a neon sign in my studio behind me that says we belong to one another.
Yep.
And we belong to one another.
I've heard you talk multiple times now. And I just want to let you know, you are one powerful woman.
Thank you.
I think it's different when I'm hearing you on stage and the energy levels may be different, but now being here with you, just me and you, I'm going to be very honest. I didn't realize how powerful you are until this moment. I can feel your energy, your warmth, and you have more in you than you're just scratching the surface. I don't know if it's through your artwork, through more of your talks. What's the next level for you now?
I want to do more things on stage. I think that would be really important and good for people, whatever that is, corporately or for women, but I don't want to leave out the men. I think it's important. Also, I'm creating a television show called The Art of Art. Steve Hardison is the one who named it. I'm interviewing creators like the cobbler that makes the shoes that Elton John only wear on stage. Like how does something like that get made? Do we even know? How does paint even get into a tube? There's an amazing place outside of Amsterdam where they make the paint and it's the most beautiful. So the show is like cinematography is magnificent. Like I'm interviewing these creators. Like, how do you get past the beginning of something? Like me learning to play the guitar, like a phrase that my daughter's improv teacher long ago taught them is you have to dare to suck at something before you're going to be good at it.
Right.
You know, is you're going to suck at something until you, and you got to keep on going because that's what builds that muscle in your heart and your body, mind, and spirit is that you don't quit. You just keep going and you say, no, I'm not going to be good at this for a while. And then you get good at it. The feeling of that, the freedom and I don't need anybody to come in here and say, oh my God, that painting is amazing. I know it is because
it is already.
I've got 100,000 hours into painting. I can do it. I'm pretty good at that. Now, like Steve said, I'd love you to try just a whole different thing. Like do some abstract thing. I don't want to because number one, this is fulfilling for me. But the guitar, it's like I go down there and then I put it up on the wall, but I'm not going to put it away because I'm going to figure this out. I wasn't a good guitar player by any stretch, but I wasn't a beginner. And I quit doing it for a while. So I'm going back to that. I think
the next time I see you, we're going to hear you play the guitar.
Perhaps. But I do think that we need to dare to suck at things and get good at them and enjoy life. My God, it goes by
so fast.
Let's just savor the moments. I can look back at yesterday and go, you know what? I'm glad I had that day. I don't want to waste another one like that. But I'm glad that I had it to see I have compassion for people. And I also want to kick people in the butt. Come on. Don't live in your pity party. We all have valid reasons. What I said in England when I spoke is, you know what? I had a valid reason for being a victim. And I told my tiger story there, being in a cage with a tiger and the whole bit and actual tiger behind me. Yeah. And here's the thing. I could keep going on with that story. It wasn't serving me anymore. So I became the tiger. So I'm not that girl anymore who felt disposable. Becky was disposable. And I don't even know how long it's been since I told Steve that story. And he stopped me in my tracks and said, what did you just say? He was so into the story of me getting in the cage and this tiger was behind me and Becky's going to disappear and tiger's going to come through the wall, which exactly happened. I only had one chance to do it. I didn't have a second chance to pull off that magic trick or I would have been eaten by the tiger. I could not make a mistake. I did it. And he was like, oh my God, tell me more. As soon as I got to the end of the story, I said, obviously Becky was disposable.
Mm.
And he said, stop. What did you just say? I hadn't realized that I had internalized that feeling from my last marriage. Like, oh my God, I was obviously disposable. And then I was validating myself for being a victim. It's true. A lot of things happened that were pretty terrible, but I can't go on that way because I had no freedom to live my life with that. I mentioned this when I was in Birmingham because there were several people in the audience who had come in from Israel.
Mm.
With everything that was going on there. To talk about not feeling like a victim is a big ask. It's a big ask. You cannot walk through life, the rest of your life like that. You'll miss out on this lifetime of any other thing that could have brought you joy and peace. Like we're having right this minute. You can find moments like this, which I thank you for.
Mm. Thank you. You're a true blessing. There's so much more I want to go in. I want to talk to you way more. There's just more of, I understand why I was so drawn to you initially and comes up, not just because I was like, oh, let me get Becky Robbins on my call. It had nothing to do with that. It was more of, I'm more intrigued about your story. I had no idea you were a nurse, like going to nursing school. That was more intriguing within itself. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for just being you and explaining to the world, like the presence of you and how powerful you are.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you so much. I'm grateful we got to finally connect, put our Zoom lives together at the same moment. And thank you for allowing me to be in service this way.
So if you had one last advice to give to any female entrepreneur, any entrepreneur in general, something that you wish you had this advice maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that one thing where you're like, yep, I wish someone told me this earlier. What would that be? So moving forward for the viewers.
I just read the Steve Chandler book called The Power of Systems. And I think that was really good for me to read that book because it's putting systems in place and getting out of judging yourself. So I think we can get so caught up in fixing ourselves kind of thing and our self-help stuff. Ben Buckley actually said something to me not too long ago. He said, you don't need it. And so did Steve, like you're done as a seeker. You don't need, he said, you're like freaking Mother Teresa. You don't need to keep being a seeker because you can get stalled that way. And by thinking you're still not there, wherever there is no such place as there. And so I think that what we want to do is, I think that's a stalling technique. So I think that if you put a system in place, which I think I'm really good at, that my strength in creating the Robbins global empire with systems and relationships is finding out what your strengths are, and they're different for everybody. And then look at where your strengths are and say yes to those, even if it's something you don't know how to do. And someone says, hey, Bina, I would love for you to manage this group of entrepreneurs who are rocket scientists. And you just say, yes, I can do that. Even if you don't even know if you can, you figure it out. You take advantage of the opportunities to grow yourself because you're by yourself as an entrepreneur a lot. And you putting in systems. I love that book, Power of Systems. That's one good thing to do, which I've been using. Yesterday, I took advantage of not being in a mode to work on a couple of different websites for people. I created my own complete organizational system. I walked in here last night and was just like, oh, that was awesome. So I'm loving systems and I'm loving not getting caught up into what's wrong with me. And I don't feel like it doesn't matter. You just do what you do, appreciate yourself along the way and celebrate yourself afterwards. And we got to celebrate ourselves a lot.
Celebration's huge. I love Ben Buckley. Shout out to him. He's a very wise man, along with you, Steve Hardison. But yeah, the systems are key. Like it really is one of the powerful things I coach on is it's okay to say yes in fear. If I did not say yes to half the shit I've done in 2 years, a lot of people see my success and they're like, you did all this in 2.5 years. And I'm like, huh? And there's more. You know why? Because I said it with yes, with scared. I was scared.
There's freedom in that. It's like one of the statements in my document is I am wonderment and certainty in the as yet unknown. In the unknown. Just look at it with a sense of wonder and curiosity. I was like, I wonder what could happen here. I would just approach a couple days last Friday with a new friend of mine who has an amazing story. You never even imagine that what his story is. And he and I are going to do a couple projects together. It just happened that fast. Just let's do this one and let's do that one. How about we were jumping, leapfrogging off of each other, doing these things that we both have completely different skill sets. And I left there feeling, okay, let's go.
Yes. And that's like the biggest thing I always tell people. Even if you're scared, do it anyways.
100%. Yeah.
And that's what I heard you saying again. So thank you for validating what I've been feeling, because I needed to hear that again. I appreciate you saying that, because yeah, it's a big thing for entrepreneurs to hear, is that when you're scared, do it anyways.
And just turn off that, whatever you're talking to yourself about being afraid, because that's
Right?
the whole Power of Systems book. It's no, you're not going to go there. You're just going to do what's in front of you right now. So
Powerful. Thank you so much. Again,
Right.
we'll have her information on here. We'll have her email or website so people can come to you. And thank you so much for being here. It's such a
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
My pleasure. Stay on in just a few minutes. But thank you, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.